And welcome to the Raleigh Board of Selectmen meeting of February 22nd, 2016. As a reminder, this meeting is audio and video recorded digitally. And I call the meeting to order at 7:02. And Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Roth, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Citizens' query tonight is from 7:10 to 7:15. We have an appointment at 7:15 and also an appointment at 7:30. So,
Mr. Chairman, we have our shellfish constable, Travis Nealon here, and he's going to be here for the general business number 1 discussion.
okay, we can go right into that. So, general business number 1 is fiscal year 16, Great Marsh Green Crab Trapping Program.
Yep. So, the Division of Marine Fisheries has contacted me, and they're curious to the town if we're interested in participating in a trapping program of the invasive species, the green crab. From what I know of it, I've been trying to get in contact with her, but she hasn't been in her office. She wasn't there Friday or today.
Okay.
She's supposed to be in there tomorrow, so I'm supposed to receive a call tomorrow. But from what I know, from what she sent me, they're going to be funding the town $15,000 to provide for equipment, to pay for citizens that want to participate in it. So they can, kind of like a commercial. They want to try to do it commercially.
Well, they're trying to figure out a way to make them useful for something.
Yeah.
Whether it's fertilizer or whether it's food, but
Yeah.
they've been doing that now it's been a couple of years.
But I don't have the full details on it because I'm still waiting for her to get back to me, so I don't know
Okay.
how, what to do with the crab once we have them, how to dispose of them. I just have basic information on it.
Okay. Have you had a chance to talk to Jack? Jack
No,
Menschman?
I have not.
And actually, Jack and John were heavily involved in that when they first started it.
I think they did participate in the earlier part of the program.
2 years ago, I think, now they first
I
started
have
on it.
a packet here if you guys are interested in looking at it.
Okay.
Do they have to be licensed claimers in order to participate?
I don't think they have to be, I don't know, that's something
Okay.
I was gonna ask her. I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know it's something that we have to do something about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good.
The state is starting to give some funding, so. Yeah, if you get a chance, I'd talk to Jack
Yeah,
if you
I
can.
didn't think to do that. I didn't know, I thought it was just something that started.
Yeah, no, it's been going on. I know I went with him, Joe and I both went with him down to Gloucester and met with the fishing people
Yeah.
down there, the federal people. And that was last year. We
Yeah.
did that.
Right.
So
Okay.
that, if you get a chance, it would be, you could probably be helpful to you,
Yeah.
head you off in the right direction.
Okay,
So
thank you.
what's the issue with the green crab?
They're an invasive species, so they're coming in and they're destroying a lot of the marshland, and they eat a lot of the clam seeds, so there's not as many clams around, there's not as many certain types of small fish, I believe they eat, and also I think they're affecting the lobster population as well.
Can
Is
we
what I
train them
read.
to eat the Phragmites?
I don't think so.
They don't seem to be interested.
Aquatic species, not terrestrial.
Yeah, they can do a lot of damage
Yeah.
to the clam industry, and I think Jack reported to us some time ago that if they didn't do something about it, that they could wipe out all of the clamming for all of Maine coast.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on it, and Maine's they're getting hit pretty hard by the green crabs.
Yeah. And we were about a year ago until last winter's cold weather, and they seem to have backed away for some
Yeah.
reason. But now they're starting to, the state at least is gonna step in and try to pick it up again, so.
But yeah,
Hopefully.
once I get further details on it, I'll definitely get back to you and see if we can do something.
Okay,
Great,
sounds good.
thank you.
Do we need,
Thank
do
you.
we need a motion to go for the grant, or is that something that you'll just get?
If the board is interested in that $15,000 grant, yes, there's a significant amount of paperwork we would need to complete under
Fill out.
that grant program.
I'll give you a motion to file a grant application.
Well, we don't need to. They're
You don't need
actually
that
giving
today?
us that. They have a contract.
Okay, so we don't
ready.
need a motion then, we
We're
just
not
have to-
applying. They're actually offering $15,000
Okay.
grant.
There is a contract in this package, so.
Yeah, I have one. If you guys don't have one, I have
Yep.
one.
We do have that in the scope of
Yes, sir.
services.
There's some record-keeping requirements, and
Yeah,
so, I mean, there would have to be someone in the town that's responsible for the administration of this. Would that be the Shellfish Constable, or?
that's something I have to talk about with her. She said that she would let me know how other towns are doing it.
There's a bunch of reports
So
in
I-
there
like
that
I
have to
said, I
fill
still
out on a
need to
daily
talk to her.
Okay.
basis.
But
Oh, yeah.
they did give me the sheet that's similar to the
Level
the
commercial
shellfish report that commercial claimers have to fill out. It's similar, you fill out
Primary
the
bio
landing where you
report.
take out from the area that you harvested, the date, how much you harvested.
The total daily pounds of crabs landed by each harvester.
Yeah, there's a whole series of
Yeah.
forms that have to be filled out and reports made to the
Yeah, there's a lot of
fishing game.
record-keeping requirements for something like this. You wouldn't think that it would be this detailed, but.
Yeah.
If the town does accept these funds, that these are the requirements that would be, the town would need to follow, and we would need to make sure that we do ensure, as the signatory would be the Board of Selectmen, that it is being done correctly.
Right. The division reserves the right to seek reimbursable funds for unauthorized use of funds on behalf of the constituents. Should discovery be made of such occurrences. So they're gonna be watching their money very closely.
Yep.
And there's a whole series of forms here, there's 4 or 5 of them that have to be filled out. Okay, so that's it? All right, so when you get some more information, you'll keep us up to date. Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, we're at 7:10, so citizens' query is open at this time. So. Do we want to get into the letter, Deb, on the old business one?
So, Mr. Chairman, I think old business 1 will take some time. If you want to go to old business number 2.
Okay, we can do that. That's the Brighton Regional School Committee public hearing for February.
No, old business number 2, Mr.
Stable
Chairman.
license.
Old business, oh, stable license, sure. Okay, old business number 2. During the February 8th, 2016 Board of Selectmen meeting, the board voted to notify the owner of Prestige Stables that they need to file their 2016 stable license application. Several letters have been sent to Cassandra Olson with no response. Since that time, Debbie was contacted by Stephen Comley Jr., who told her that he was the owner of Prestigious Stables, not the person whose name we were given by the animal inspector. Debbie is recommending that the Board of Selectmen vote to send a letter to Mr. Comley asking him to complete the 2016 stable license application and return to the Board of Selectmen. So, guess we need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to send the license application out to Steve Conley Jr. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left here to get to 7:15, and that's a approximate time. So Brent, I think we can put you on. Conservation Agent Brent Bazelak to discuss the fiscal year 17 Conservation Commission budget. Also, dog reservation access and Merrimack Valley Planning Commission pictometry program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome,
Members
sir.
of the board. The review of the proposed FY17 Conservation Department budget is kind of a two-part exercise. I believe should have a communication letter dated February 18th to Chairman Mary regarding request to staff Conservation Commission Secretary position in FY17. I believe I also submitted the proposed budget package. Conservation Department, since my tenure in the town of Raleigh, July 2004, has been a single-person department with no administrative support, with the exception of the senior service person who started providing 2 hours of administrative support to our efforts. I'm not exactly sure of the tenure of that, but I think it was approximately somewhere in the neighborhood of 2006 to 2007. In that period of time, the department has seen increasing responsibilities, not only in environmental regulation, but more specifically in stormwater management, with the implementation of the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw as mandated by the National Pollution Elimination Discharge Permit, commonly referred to, I think, as Phase 2, that was implemented in 2007. Since that time, there has been increasing development activity that has impacted and needed permitting through the department. Specifically, we've also seen increasing regulation through the expansion and implementation of the floodplain bylaw, wherein the town joined the National Flood Insurance Program and adopted the FEMA flood panels, which were significantly revised in the coastal area in 2012 and expanded the square footage coverage area of coastal land subject to storm flowage. And so this request is for support of the Board of Selectmen for the return to staffing the Conservation Commission secretarial position, which would be for proposed 16 hours in total, with approximately 10 hours of that time funded through budget request of $8,299, with the additional 6 hours is proposed by the Conservation Commission to authorize the utilization of the Notice of Intent monies, which is a dedicated restricted fund. It is the state town portion of the State Wetlands Protection Act fees that are dedicated for use by the town for administration and enforcement of the State Wetlands Protection Act. That is partially the reason for the split in hours, is that it's my estimation that an administrative secretarial person would legitimately have, out of a 16-hour position, would have roughly 6 hours of work that would be specifically the result of Wetlands Protection Act activities, be it application or also just oversight and paperwork that is necessary for administrating that particular act in the town. The other 10 hours would be support for the other ministerial tasks that the Conservation Department finds itself, as well as the Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the floodplain activities, and minutes, and filing, and all the other duties that entail operating an office and keeping accurate public records. And so I am respectfully asking for the Board of Selectmen's support in seeking to fund and hopefully staff that position for FY17.
Okay. Does the board have any comment, questions, anything?
No, I think it's the amount of work that comes out of the conservation office. I think they're badly in need of some administrative secretarial type support. And I know Brent is constantly going out in the field and doing a lot of field work, and that would allow someone to be in the office and be available, you know, whatever, probably mornings, I would guess, but it'd be a real help to him, as well as doing all the, I mean, the amount of paperwork involved with all these different issues that he and the Conservation Commission get involved in.
Yep.
Particularly with the stormwater stuff now and everything. It's just, it's essential. The town's growing and the duties are growing, and this is one of those positions that we've held off, and Brent's really kept his head above water very well by himself, and it's time to support him with his position.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, David, particularly with all of the mandates that are coming down from the various places, like you said, the floodwater insurance stuff is got to be taken care of. Stormwater management is going to be a real headache. Even with help, it's going to be a big nut to crack on that one. So
Yep.
I definitely think that we need to give you the resources that you need to get the job done.
I fully agree.
Me too.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen. Second part of the request
Yep.
is a letter also dated February 18th, 2016, subject Conservation Commission Notice of Intent Funds Authorization Request.
Okay,
In order for the commission, who has voted for potentially utilizing the Notice of Intent Funds, I'm seeking authorization from the Board of Selectmen for the utilization of those funds to go towards the 6-hour wages of this position, if it ends up being approved and funded.
I'll give you the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. So the next part of your presentation will be the Dodge Reservation access.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe the board members should be in possession of an 11 by 17 sketch plan. It is also projected on the screen, and if I may, responding to various concerns and the desire to establish not only a safe but an accessible means of access off of Weathersfield Street to get to the quote-unquote back preserved open space area. Been looking at the property, and so we started off by just doing an assessment of the parking spaces that were available. There's 3 basic parking lots, A, B, and C. Lot A.
Brent,
I'm terrible.
stand over here. 'cause
Stand over there.
block on
I'm
it.
blocking things? Oh, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. So 3 parking lots. Parking lot A, which has 15 spaces, is on the frontage of Weathersfield Street, and everyone who has driven by the entrance is probably familiar with that. Parking lot B, further back, is a smaller area that the Y Camp folks have been using predominantly. That has 14 spaces also. And that is accessed off of larger, what I'm just calling parking lot C, which has approximately 34 spaces based on doing on-the-ground measurements. So currently, to access the Y Camp, one enters off of Weathersfield Street, comes up a single lane access going up over the hill, comes into parking lot C, and currently they have a lot of drop-off vehicles, according to talking to the director, Mary Lynn, and they've been using the old Woods Road or Smith Lane as an access or exit to get back onto Weathersfield Street. It doesn't directly empty onto Weathersfield Street. It goes into a large right-of-way area that the 90-degree corner forms. In looking at how to improve the flow, how to improve public access, and how to also facilitate drop-off vehicles, we're proposing to widen the existing single-lane access and make it two-way, coming up into Lot C and then going up into Lot B, and cutting a very small egress point which would allow drive-through and the drop-off, facilitate drop-offs, and would ultimately only disturb approximately 60 to 80 square feet of the terrain and remove 5 trees with another couple of saplings along the widening the access drive. And that would allow, quote-unquote, Smith Lane or this Woods Road exit to be closed off by either boulders or telephone poles or some kind of poles. And that then could be dedicated to public access by foot or hoof, since we have people interested in riding horses there. This parking lot area A that fronts on Weathersfield Street, the proposal is to create 3 to 4 dedicated public-only parking spaces, and then to mark a trail through the woods so that folks wouldn't have to walk on Weathersfield Street. They'd have a dedicated walking path that would come over and access this section of Smith Lane that's been blocked off. And then that would allow foot or hoof traffic to go down, walk through the parking lot C, and get into the entrance that then ultimately leads to the conserved open space area. This would maintain the security and integrity of the children utilizing the Y Camp. It would provide two-way drive-through, drop-off traffic that would improve this egress and access point, although currently right now it seems perfectly wide for emergency vehicles. That would certainly improve by it being widened for two-way traffic. And it would also provide the public parking spaces without the need for potentially clearing woods or doing other large earth disturbance activities, which at one point in time there was an idea of a separate satellite parking area here. Turns out the conservation restriction that the commission is looking at possibly implementing with Essex County Greenbelt prohibits expansion and new disturbance to create parking areas. The assumption early on was that there was a fair amount of parking already in existence at the camp, and the Y folks have confirmed that the existence of the 63 spaces was more than adequate for their utilization of the camp. If there's any questions.
So are the Y folks okay with this proposal to allow the public to use that
Yes.
parking lot? Because they have it labeled as employee parking, so it
Yes.
seems like they think
They
it's
are
entirely their own,
okay.
but they're,
We have interfaced with them.
okay.
As well as this, we also sought the opinion of Essex County Greenbelt, since they're the potential holder of the conservation restriction. They have both seen this proposal and have said that it is adequate, meets their needs, and they have no objections and support it. And the Conservation Commission has voted to support this also. So we're hoping that the Board of Selectmen will also join us in support of this proposal.
Yeah, basically it's a jointly supported project. I've been
Right.
working with Brent on it.
Yeah.
And the idea was to make some dedicated spaces. And there's no signage down there yet, but hopefully before the summer we'll be able to put, once he cuts the new trail along Weathersfield Street and so on and so forth, the Y's agreed that we'll put up signage once the winter's over and so on. So, and Brent has time to, among his other duties, to
I am working
go out
on
and
a
market.
proposal for signage such as you've seen at either national wildlife refuges or state parks, where you have these modular composite posts that then have decals on them that
Right.
specify, either restriction to vehicle traffic and this way for foot traffic, hiking, horseback riding, stuff. So I will have that prepared a little later on if this ends up meeting everybody's, or, excuse me, earning everybody's support.
We also had the no trespassing signs removed.
Yeah,
So
the large keep
The
out
public can more or less
signs, which
walk
were,
up that road right now and use it until we get the new signage and the dual use with the kid. They're not using it as a camp at this point anyway, so the caretaker down there is aware that people may walk up that main road to get to the conservation area. We're just trying to keep people out of the building area and the camp area. So hopefully by the summer, the whole thing will be, between the highway department and we may have to get a contractor to come in and spread some, widen the road and put down some lint pack or whatever to make that, usable as a two-way road. But it should be done before camp opens this summer, this spring.
and if I didn't, I should stress the public safety aspect of this by separating the vehicle traffic and giving a dedicated pathway for foot and horse traffic.
Right.
We exponentially improve the safety for folks entering the property either by vehicle or by horse and foot, keeping them in totally separate dedicated pathways so that there won't be any conflicts.
Okay.
So with the approval of this, what we'll be doing is meeting with the highway department, number one. They're gonna help us widen the road to the extent they can. And there is some money in the budget for work to be done over there in this year's budget. So we'll be working on a contract to have probably a contract to come in and finish off and spread the lint pack and money for signage and things like that. So I think we're kinda looking for permission to do this as well as authorize the spending of funds to implement the project.
Seems like a good plan.
Any further
I
comment?
agree.
Okay. Hearing none? Yes?
Is there an estimate on what this will cost?
No,
Or even a ballpark?
not much. The highway department's gonna do the bulk of the leveling work, and then I wouldn't expect it to be more than $4,000 or $5,000 at the most. To have a contractor come in and finish it off and square it away in a safe manner. And I'm basing that based on what the contractor did at the water road on where the treatment plant is. So it's not a lot of money, but it's something that we really need to do for public safety and for access, proper access for the camp and the public. I'll give you a motion to approve
Okay.
the project, the plan and the project.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor of the plan signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So that one's done. So Brent, we got one left. Merrimack Valley Planning Commission Pictometry Program. But just as a notice, the citizens' query is now closed. It's after 7:15.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Mary and fellow board members. Previously, I had addressed the commission in regards to an inquiry from Merrimack Valley Planning Commission on seeking a commitment for the possibility of having the pictometry flights for the North Shore conducted in spring of 2016. In Merrimack Valley's Planning Commission's polling of their member communities, they came to the conclusion that they didn't have a critical mass who were supportive of having the flights implemented here in 2016, but they did have a critical mass that did want the flights, and that a portion of them wanted to have them implemented in 2017. So we received a communication dated February 3rd, 2016, from Dennis DeZorgro, Executive Director of Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, who's requesting basically a modification of the town's earlier commitment, with that being modified to committing to a schedule in the spring of 2017. This, of course, makes it more beneficial to have the maximum area flown, because the computer-controlled flights, even though they may cross municipal boundaries, they can't just immediately do a U-turn and go back over the communities that wish to participate. And so therefore, having a larger mass of communities makes not only the conducting of those flights more efficient and effective, but it also has allowed them to get a commitment from the pictometry folks to hold on to the price and not to see any escalation in price, even though it's time to implement a year later.
Right. Okay, any comment, suggestions?
So 9,736, is that the total price or half of the price?
Total.
That's the total for the town of Rowley.
Right.
But they do,
But you can make it over 2 years, right?
yes, they do allow that the payment to be split and tender to them over 2 fiscal years. They don't require that it all be paid at once.
I'll give you that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I guess I've got to sign it, right?
I guess you do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brent.
Okay, Brent, I guess that's it. You got anything else for us tonight?
No, may I be of further service to the board?
Get out while you can.
Thank you very much, Brent.
Thank you.
I'm sure we can find something that we can have you do.
Okay, our next appointment is at 7:30, and I apologize for being slightly late.
No problem.
We are at 7:35, so. And the 7:30 appointment is Water Superintendent Mary Beth Wisner and Water Board Co-Chairman, Clerk,
Vice Chairman.
Vice Chairman, so I say Co-Chairman. Water Board Vice Chairman. Mark Emery. And John wasn't able to make it tonight. To discuss the fiscal year 17 water budget.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a matter of information. Travis, you're all set, we're all set with
Yeah, I know.
your present day. Okay,
Just sitting in.
you're welcome to stay.
All right, thank
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But it is an open meeting.
Yes.
We can't kick him out.
No, no, I didn't know if he wanted to,
If he felt that he had to stay,
Right.
really don't, if you don't want to. But it's just so
You're
much
welcome
fun,
to.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting stuff.
Thanks, Brent.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care, Brent.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so I guess you're up. Wherever you want to start.
Did you have a chance to look at the budget? Does anyone have any questions specifically?
Before you start, I'd just like to say that it's a pleasure to get this budget this year. In the 10 years I've been on the Board of Selectmen, off and on over the years, I've never seen a smoother budget process from the Water Department than what we've had this year. And obviously, the addition of Mr. Emery on the board has been a big assistance to you and your support. And to have the budget this early and this complete is a pleasure.
Truly is.
Thank you.
Now let's hope you think the same of the budget.
That's a different story.
I had the advantage of being able to sit through the presentation at the town's budget committee with Larry White and Miss Egan. So I have some information on it, but I'll let Mary Beth make her presentation.
Okay, did you want me to go through the whole
Just
thing?
in general, keep it.
Okay. It will-
Maybe major changes would be, well,
Okay,
the budget is down, you just dropped 5% anyway, right?
yes, so we do have a decrease from proposed FY17 from this fiscal year. We've done some more work, you have the latest copy, but it's about 6% decrease from last year, which is about 189,000 less than we have in this current year's budget. So some of the highlights from the difference from last year on the employees, I presented to the Board of Water Commissioners, I proposed a part-time janitor slash maintenance position for 16 hours a week, so that will be an additional staff added to the department if it goes forward. That was a change. Based upon this year's overtime, I did decrease the overtime by $8,000 as compared to this current fiscal year. So the call-outs aren't just there, so I decreased it by $8,000. The major part of the budget, which is the expenses, that's the monies that we use on the day-to-day. Mostly every line in there I was able to decrease. In particular, this fiscal year, we're restocking repair clamps and pipe and fittings and our brass and stocking our meters and meter heads, which we didn't have before. So because we're taking care of most of the restocking in this fiscal year, I was able to decrease and hoping to just maintain the stock that we get this year. That's the goal. A couple of other things that were just a little different, it's just where we put the money. We just, we had a line 8 and a line 9. Line 8 was engineering services and line 9 was the customer service and billing. So to even further simplify, we just moved those into the line 7 underneath the category of services. So you'll find those dollar amounts under the expense line.
Oh, okay. So that's why there's a big increase in line 7.
Correct.
Right.
Do a final decrease.
So if you look on the first page,
Second page.
yes, you'll look underneath, it will say, there's zeros in those different categories. Under the expenses, line 8 and line 9 are carrying 0 in FY17. And those dollar amounts were just moved above in line 7. The other change is moving more forward to streamline the budget. There was a line for just the water treatment plant expenses. So if you notice on that page, requested for FY17, there's no dollars requested. And you see the little footnotes below. Those dollar amounts have been also placed in the expense line for the water treatment plant on line 7. And that's really the highlights. The rest is just our overhead and debt services.
Mary Beth, how are you making out with hiring or implementing the additional help that you need for the treatment plant operation as well as the distribution? I know we authorized 2 positions for this year, and are we having any luck in making hirings?
We did advertise in December. We didn't have any luck having any candidates interested, but I just think it was the timing of the year. So we re-advertised towards the end of January, beginning of February. We've had, I believe, 3 candidates, and I think 1 actually might have come in today.
Okay.
I've conducted 2 interviews. One of the candidates was a no-show and has not called us back. So I've interviewed 2 candidates, and we'll see what this other candidate is all about. Perhaps call him in or her in.
Okay.
So we're moving forward, which is a good thing. Does anybody have any questions on the Capitol?
Would you just give us a quick run-through, just so the public can understand what you're requesting for increases in that?
Sure, so the capital plan that you have before you with the assistance of the town accountant Sue Bailey, we kind of broke it up to make it easier to follow where the money is gonna come from. So we have,
What page are you on, Mary Beth?
it is not numbered, it's the small little sheet that looks like this.
Oh, okay.
I apologize, the pages are not numbered.
Okay.
So we're requesting the paving of 401 Central Street, Prospect Hill exterior tank coatings, retrofitting the water treatment plant with a dehumidification, and addressing the issues on the Pingree Farm access road. Kind of went to a plan B of, rather than just going for the paving, to cut back the trees on either side to widen the road and bring some material back in. That's about $42,000. We would have to cut the trees down anyway if we were gonna pave it. So we thought maybe it might be a better idea to do this kind of like as a phase 1, see how it goes. The board assures me that they will allow me to maintain the road at least twice a year and as needed. They've assured me of that. So, you know, we're willing to try to do that. And if it works, great. If not, at least we try it and then we, you know, reapproach this down the road. But at least part of it will be done anyway as far as getting the trees cut. And that, the total capital is $643,000. Now, it sounds like a lot of money. This will not increase the rates at all. We'll be transferring the funds from stabilization, which is money we already have. And if town meeting passes it, the money will get into the appropriate articles. We're going to be purchasing the dump truck with the plow, and the board has approved me to spend up to $75,000, and that would include with the plow, the radio, the lights, and all the extras that we have to get with the truck. That will go right into the operating budget. Typically, in the operating budget, the water department is carrying between $75,000 and $100,000 in capital, so that's right in line with what the department has been carrying. We're also going to be having an electronic message board, and the money to pay for that and some other emergency equipment will come from repurposing articles that already been approved at previous town meetings. We'll just repurpose them for the message board. And that's it for capital.
Okay,
And none of that will increase the rates. So
That's the key thing right there.
exactly.
Looks very good.
Yep.
I just want to, Chairman Manning isn't here, but please express my appreciation for the fact that the meetings up there have taken on a whole new light. He's doing an excellent job as chairman and running the meeting in a very businesslike and efficient manner. I think it reflects well on you, Mary Beth, reflects well on the board. And it's been a long haul, but it's really, I think it's paid off. And at this point, myself anyway, I think the board here is pleased with what's happened up there and all the work that's taken place, and the fact that you've been able to function and put together a budget like this with everything else going on is a real feather in your hat. So thank you very much.
Job, because figuring how long, I haven't even been there
Yeah,
a whole month yet, and I've been able to catch up on all this stuff very easily. She's been very good at that.
the record keeping and the paperwork and the stuff is fantastic. So
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you.
just one note on that. Superintendent Weiser and I have discussed this. The town is going to be going into negotiations with the AFSCME unit. And so this budget proposal that you see here obviously does not reflect any wage increases that may result as a,
From the
from
negotiations.
those negotiations. So at some point, in the likelihood that the contract is settled soon, it can be implemented into the budget before town meeting and into the warrant. If not, then that contract would have to be funded at a future town meeting.
Okay. You all set?
One of the things is also the revenue projections for the remainder of this fiscal year are spot on, so we're
Excellent.
doing really well.
Good.
That's it.
Okay.
I think we need a motion to approve.
To approve the budget, yeah.
I'll be more than happy to give you the motion to approve the budget as submitted by the Water Department.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Good night now.
Good night.
Take care now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that finishes the appointments, and we're into old business. Discussion number one, Triton fiscal year 17 tentative budget and letter sent to Triton School Committee, Chairperson Deb Choate. Okay. February 9th, 2016, Deborah Choate, Triton Regional School Committee Chairperson, Triton Regional School District, 112 Elm Street, Byfield, Mass. Read fiscal year 17 proposed operating budget. Dear Chairperson Choate, the Raleigh Board of Selectmen is deeply concerned over your proposal to increase the Triton operating budget by nearly $1 million in fiscal 17, 2017. The impact of this enormous increase will have devastating consequences to the town of Raleigh's ability to provide municipal services next fiscal year. Under your proposed budget plan, Raleigh's assessment increases by an astonishing $587,606. We have yet to hear what the school committee's plans are to address rapidly dropping student enrollment in the Triton School District. Enrollment is decreasing by 5.44%, with 143 students less than in fiscal year 16. The consistent yearly drop in student enrollment has resulted in a shrinking foundation budget due to fewer students in the Triton School District. Triton's foundation budget has decreased by $900,944 in fiscal year 17, which comes to a 3.5% decrease. Yet, the proposed fiscal year 17 Triton budget increases by 3.38%, or $938,420 over fiscal year 16. The school committee cannot expect the taxpayers in the district's 3 municipalities to make up the difference between the reduced size of the foundation budget and the school committee's desired operating budget. There are fundamental structural changes that need to be implemented to reduce the size of the Triton budget. to the decreasing student enrollment. Town's minimum contribution in fiscal year 17 is set at $6,808,092. The school committee's proposed budget plan sets Raleigh's assessment at $9,302,251, which comes out to an above minimum contribution of $2,494,159. This is not acceptable or workable. The town estimates receiving a new tax revenue of $444,730 in fiscal year 17, and anticipates being able to fund an increased Triton assessment equal to 50% of the new taxed revenue, or $222,365. The Board of Selectmen requests that Triton's budget be set within these parameters. The Board of Selectmen is hopeful that a new era of community spirit and willingness to work together will engender our future partnership. The budget development process over the past few years has become an us and you mentality, which has resulted in diverse and contentious budget discussions. I and my colleagues on the board remember several years ago when the school superintendent and business manager would meet every year before the start of the budget season with the town administrator, a selectman, and a finance committee member for the purpose of getting a sense of the town's physical picture. There was a consistent dialogue between the school administration and the town's leadership as the school committee developed a draft budget. In fact, this spirit of cooperation between the school district and the town resulted in Raleigh getting a Proposition 2.5 general override approval in 2007. All parties had a mindset of working together for the betterment of students and residents. There was a recognition that the development of a budget required an examination of expenses and revenues. Sadly, this spirit of cooperation and mindset of working for common goals between the town and the school have been lost and resembles the gridlock in Congress. Now the budget process consists of the school committee compiling the expenses without any concern as to how these expenses will be paid. The Board of Selectmen has been supportive of Triton. Once the school committee finalized its plans for the Triton Stadium project, the Board of Selectmen placed an override question supporting funding of the Triton Stadium on the May 2015 ballot. The Selectmen want to see that stadium built as much as the school committee does, and we have had a selectman in attendance at almost every meeting when this project had been discussed. This stadium is important for the district and the town. Additionally, I and other selectmen have been meeting with Pine Grove School Principal Christine Nealon and Facilities Director Chris Walsh over the past few years to prioritize capital spending needs for the Pine Grove School, which resulted in town meeting funding of these projects. Furthermore, the Board of Selectmen unanimously supported the Mass School Building Authority application for the renovations of the Pine Grove School. The leadership of the town of Raleigh takes great pride in our students and the Triton Regional School District. When was the last time Triton School Committee or administration took an interest in what was happening in the town of Raleigh? Raleigh has a selectman present at almost every school committee meeting. Oftentimes, a member of the Raleigh Finance Committee is also present. Whether there is a distinction on the budget or not, it appears that the willingness to work together is a one-way street. In closing, the Board of Selectmen is disappointed and disheartened by the school committee's lack of willingness to reach out to the town before developing its fiscal 17 budget plan. This is apparent by the scheduling of the District Communications Committee meeting the day after the school committee votes on its tentative operating budget. Sincerely, G. Robert Murray, Chairman, Board of Selectmen. Are there any comments or suggestions?
I'd like to start off with a comment. I hand-delivered this letter to the school committee at its meeting on Wednesday night a week ago. And it was discussed at the district communications meeting by members of the school committee. And I believe Dave may have addressed parts of it. So that it has been presented to the school committee. I don't see any value to presenting it again. And I know that we can't read it into the record because we're only allotted 3 minutes to speak. So that would be my
Okay.
judgment. Each member of the school committee got a copy hand-delivered by me.
Okay. So we can move on to the next item?
I think so.
Okay, it's Triton Regional School Committee public hearing on fiscal year 17 tentative budget and upgrade on the Pine Grove School project. So you want to give us the budget update, Joe?
Sure. As it stated when you were reading earlier, that the Triton tentative budget, which is attached in the package, shows an increase of $569,651. There was a comment by, I believe, it was Robin Williams. She is vice chair of the school committee, that she suggested to the administration that they seek to reopen negotiations with the the Pine Grove, sorry, I'll get it right, the Triton Regional Teachers Association, so that they might reduce the percentage that they negotiated in the contract. If they do, they would use that money not to reduce the assessment to the towns, but only to restore the cuts that they were made, such as the cutting the 2 teachers at Pine Grove, cutting the 2 teachers at Newbury, taking the foreign language off of the core subjects at the middle school and making it an elective, and whatever other cuts that they projected. So that their figure of 569, it would be my guess, and again, just reading between the lines. Personally, I think that's a fairly close to what the final figure will be voted in March. But on Wednesday evening at the Triton High School Library, there will be an open hearing, and people will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak on the budget as proposed.
Okay.
And members of the boards, the Finance Committee, the Selectmen are invited, parents are invited to make comments.
Okay. Is there any other comment from the board?
I went with Joe to the last communications meeting, last week, I guess it was, and I agree with Joe's assumption or presumption that the budget is not going to change appreciably. There may be some minor changes, but it's not going to be enough to radically affect our budget. So I think, as we move forward in our budget situation, we just have to figure out how we're going to deal with this increase, because it's just, and one of the things that was brought up, Joe, was the taking a look at the Triton Regional Agreement in the future, because one of the things that's driving this, and it was mentioned in the letter, is the minimum contributions from the towns, and for some reason, when the state comes down with this formula, it's increasing least by leaps and bounds. Part of it is the change in student population.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we're, in other words, like for instance, this particular budget, not our budget increase is 600,000. Newbury's is dropping by 200,000. So there's a a huge change, and it's dictated by the process that the budget's developed with a two-step process of the state using the minimum contribution and the district using the minimum contribution, and then we fill it in with a per pupil basis after that. So it's a kind of a convoluted system at this point. And Brian Forget, who will be the new superintendent, kind of made some recommendations that we take a look at how this is done, and it's obviously not going to affect this year's budget or probably next year's, but it would be, in the future, it would be a different way of doing it. So it's a problem, and I'm not sure how we're going to deal with it, but it's on the table, and we're going to have to come up with
to deal with it.
a way, one way or the other, to fund it. So
Joe, I'm not sure I understood what you said. So the school committee is going to ask the Teachers Association to accept the reduction?
They're seeking a reduction in, yes.
In what,
their
with the cost of
negotiation.
living increased, or?
I don't, I thought it was 3% that they gave them.
I don't know.
It's in the package here somewhere, but I whatever it is, it's either 2 or 3%, and they're asking them to take a 1% decrease in what they've already negotiated with the trained teachers. And
they've already
if they do accept that 1% decrease, the school committee will use that to restore the cuts that are currently in the budget right now.
and they didn't see much hope really in the teachers accepting that either. So
No.
it was going to be a long shot if it was done,
I'd
which
be
is
kind of surprised.
yeah, it would be. It's understandable. So
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is, and we're going to have to just deal with it. And it's just going to make the budget process at town meeting difficult because we're looking for support for up to $1 million. Hopefully something less for the Pine Grove project, and an override. We're looking for probably $11 million override for the police and fire department. So I don't think it's all going to pass. We'll be lucky if we get any of it to pass. But you know, we're in a real tight year as far as trying to figure out funding, and we were just kind of hoping that the school would, their budget would come in a little bit fair, but the stars and the moon and everything is all aligned against us. So we're stuck with dealing with what we got.
I think you're right, Dave.
Hopefully, dealing with, I'd like to also comment that I grew up in Cambridge. My wife grew up in Revere. She taught for 35 years in Revere. And we would discuss school committee negotiations with the Teachers Association quite frequently in Revere. And she said that the teachers were looking for some percentage increase that year. And I said, if you want my opinion, which was further voted by the school committee, and I didn't know anybody on the school committee at the time, and but was just following the way the dollars were falling that year, that there aren't going to be any increases because there aren't any dollars to be had, and that they didn't get a percentage increase because the city couldn't afford it. And I think that, you know, if we had just had that implementation locally, it may have been to, you know, sometimes you have to give a consideration. Yes, there has, you know, they voted an increase. Just personally looking at myself, I'm a senior citizen and I'm on Social Security. Well, my Social Security didn't go up for 2016. It didn't go up for 2015. I'm getting the same as I got for 2014. The cost of living has gone up, but they adjusted the formula so that they took out the rising cost of food and eating at restaurants. Well, if you take that out, sure, I don't have an increase. There's no rise in cost of living, but that's an actual cost increase in my to my monies that I have at my expenses, and I didn't get any increase. So they have to be understanding that if people are not getting an increase, they can't seek increases like this. It's outrageous. It really isn't fair.
Well, the rate of inflation has been almost non-existent And certain things have gone down, like energy, gas.
That's true, but
And federal employees got a minuscule cost of living increase for probably the last 3 or 4 years, and I believe the same is true with state employees. So 3%, strikes me as a pretty big increase in a time of low inflation.
correct. I believe you'll find that the federal employees for 15 and 16 got no increase.
Yeah, and maybe, I think they got a small
Because,
one this year.
because I worked for the federal government, and what would happen is they would announce the increase for Social Security, say it was a 3% increase, and the federal got 1%
Right.
less.
It's been very low.
And
Some years
so,
they don't get
and
it.
so that's how they figured it. So I know that if the Social Security didn't go up for 15, didn't go up for 16, so they didn't get any increase
Right.
at all.
Well, I'm as shocked as everybody else at the size of this increase. But I'm assuming that such increases are not unknown historically. And so what has Rowley done in previous years where they've been confronted with a significant and basically unworkable increase in the school budget? I mean, what's happened? What can be done?
Either have an override, which we did in 2007, or if we take the money out of free cash or whatever we might have available there, or we reduce department budgets. In other words, by state law, we have to fund the schools. We have no choice.
My first year on the board, it was voted that all the departments take a decrease. And the Board of Selectmen voted to take a decrease in their salary. We don't get much of a salary, but it was decreased as I was being voted onto the board.
2 out of the 3 towns vote the budget. We are required to fund the budget, no matter how we do it. The state doesn't tell us how to do it. We have to come up with whatever way we can.
But if 2 towns reject the budget, then it goes back to the school
One of the
committee.
things I did
That's
ask,
correct.
I mean, Newbury obviously is getting a reduction in their school budget, so they're happy. I asked the Salisbury town manager at that meeting what Salisbury's, because they're getting a large increase like we are, and basically the answer was, well, we haven't even looked at the budget yet, but they didn't seem to be too concerned about the size of their increase. So I think it's, assuming that the school committee maintains this budget in general form it's in, where
2 out of 3 are going to pass.
it's going to pass, and we got a lot of work to do.
Yep.
So how we do it, I don't know. At this point, we won't be able to know that for sure until the school committee votes the budget.
And what are the drivers of the increase in the school budget? Besides the 3%, apparently the 3%.
It's a 3% increase,
in
which
staff.
in and of itself doesn't seem to be excessive, but in fact, if that's all it was, if our assessment was increasing 3%, we could handle it. It's the state formula, how they figure out based on numbers of pupils, tax rates. They have a convoluted formula that they use to determine our minimum contribution. So between the minimum contribution and the remainder of the funds we spend over and above that minimum contribution requirement is figured out on a per student basis from each community. So it's based on a percentage of how many students we submit. And what's happened in the last couple of years is the entire district, as the figures show here, has been reducing students. And our problem is Newbury's reduced students, a lot of students. Salisbury has reduced a good number of students, and we've reduced the least number. So as everybody else's numbers of students drop, our percentage of the extra budget keeps going up. So you put all these things together, and it's more complicated than that, but that's kind of a general explanation. It's a reduction of students in the district, and us at a much slower level of reduction. So we're not reducing our numbers of students as fast as the other communities, and the state formula for determining the budget numbers.
To the selectmen, sorry, if other people have questions, by all means, I don't mean to hog, but this is a big number. Do the selectmen have a line of sight to the actual workings of this formula? Can it be taken apart and checked, assumptions?
If you go and talk to this, I mean, in the past years, I didn't hear it this year, but in past years when I used to go up there, even the superintendent can't tell you how the state formula, what they do is they plug all these numbers into IBM or some kind of a computer. And on the other end of the computer, it spits out the numbers, and that's how the numbers are. So
Well, but why would we accept that?
we have no choice.
Well, but.
State law
that
says
would-
this is what we do.
There is
this
a
is what we do.
there is a formula for the calculation by the State Department of Education. But to answer your question in a more specific, 2 years ago, there was a glitch in the setup. They came out with figures and found that, again, Newbury had a decrease to its assessment, Raleigh had an increase, Salisbury had an increase. We voted in May at our town meetings, and we approved the budget. In June, they found the glitch in the system, and they said the decrease to Newbury was calculated wrong. The correct calculation was that Newbury should have increased, and that the difference in the increase and what their decrease was amounted to $230,000. They owed approximately, rounding, $115,000 to Raleigh and $115,000 to Salisbury. There was nothing in the calculation or the state law that bound, once it had passed, all three towns in accepting the school budget, there was nothing to enforce that Newbury had to pay Raleigh and Salisbury, and they didn't. The following year, last year, the same decrease happened again in this year. But last year, I went to Senator Tarr and I went to Representative Brad Hill. And I said, there was a glitch in the system last year, and we found out about it too late. And I went to selectmen meetings in other parts of the state, and it was happening to other regional districts. We weren't unique, not by any shot. And the other districts found that one town benefited and the other town got stuck badly. And in districts where you had 3 towns, you had 2 out of 3 were received little benefit or no benefit, and the one town got the most benefit, and of course they were overjoyed. But I had them check it out last year, and I asked Senator Tarr and Representative Hill to make sure that the glitch was not there. And they went and asked and made sure that the Department of Revenue reviewed the increase. And they found that it was calculated properly. So there is a formula. I don't know. I think my understanding is that there's one individual or some group of individuals, a small group at the state, that understands how the formula is presented to and calculated with the computers, but there are very few people outside of that group that understand where all of the numbers come from to make that calculation. If that offers anything for you.
Well, I mean, the history would make me even more concerned, frankly. But I mean, the black box aspect of it, is a real concern. I mean, if it's a formula, you should be able to parse it out. You should be able to take it apart and look at what the assumptions are and make sure that that what comes out is what is intended to come out. And the evidence that they've already screwed it up once, and no knock on Mr. Tarr or Mr. Hill, or Senator Tarr and Representative Hill, but they're not.
I agree with your basic premise, but I found in a lot of cases, living in Massachusetts, and where we have a history, last year we celebrated our 375th, and there are a lot of things that we have based on calculations that have been around for years and have never been changed. And-
The whole minimum contribution formula goes back to school reform, I think it was 1993, so that's the kind of, and the legislature has tweaked it along the way, but anytime it gets tweaked, it never really benefits regional school districts, so, I mean, we can sit here and cry, but it's state law, the state develops the formula, the Department of Education implements it, and we have no choice as selectmen, as a town, but to fund that budget. We may not
That's the
like it,
bottom
but
line.
that's, we've been trying for years as different groups trying to get the legislature to understand these problems, and they don't, so. You know, go to the legislature. The legislature is the one group that can, and the governor, that can affect this, and year after year, they really don't do anything with it, and we've tried, we write letters, they've got groups and committees that try to meet on this, and invariably, everybody runs into a stone wall, so.
Yep.
We're sorry, but that's the bad news, and the even sorrier part is we, as a board, and the town administrator, et cetera, sit here and have to figure out, along with the finance committee, how we're gonna make up this deficit, so. It's not gonna be easy, and I'm sure it's not gonna be pretty.
There's one part of the budget that deals with transportation. When the legislature passed that budget, not the budget, but the transportation portion of it, of what becomes the end of the budget, they guaranteed 100% reimbursement. We've never seen 100% reimbursement. We've never seen 50% reimbursement.
So this budget here, it's 50%.
Is it
That's what
55?
Brian said the other night at the meeting.
We got up to
But
that point.
typically, it's 30 to 40.
Yeah, it depends, when they have money,
They've
they
never
need money
funded
for
it at
something else, they
100%,
cut it out of
except for
school
the first year.
transportation. When the original group was set up, and the original legislation was supposed to be funded at 100%. But you have to understand that there's legislation year after year that when the state sets mandates that cost money, they're supposed to fund them, and they never fund them. And that's why our budgets keep going up, and they play games with theirs, so.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move on to Pine Grove if you.
Sure, yeah, I was
Would
gonna
that
ask
be
you
all right?
if you were gonna do that.
I had an interesting day today. I made a call last week to the Ipswich Public Schools. I believe it was the superintendent's office. And so because I was told by the Mass School Building Authority that Ipswich had a school that had been approved for the state grant for the 50% reimbursement, and that that was one of the schools that we could contact and find out get some information about it. So I made a call to the Ipswich superintendent's office, and I still haven't received a reply. So a second suggestion was that the Knock Middle School in Newburyport was up for renovation, and we could check with them to see how the state grant worked out for them. And the difference was that the Bresnahan School in Newburyport was a brand new building, and so there are different rules and different regulations that affect the grants, and so that we could check with the Bresnahan School in Newburyport. Well, this afternoon I made a call directly to the Winthrop School and talked to Principal Sheila McAdams, and she is a wonderful lady, and she spoke with me at some length. Gave me a lot of very, very good information, and where I should go to get additional information. I would like to point out that their grant, they're working through the paperwork. There is a ton of paperwork. I sat with Brian Forget and Christopher Farmer, excuse me, at a call into the State Department, the Mass School Building Authority, and there is a bundle of papers that have to be filled out. Fortunately for us, Most of the paperwork has to be presented. The information will come from the Triton Regional District Administration, from the superintendent's office and the assistant superintendent's office. But there are timeframes coming up. We have to get some information to the state by the March 11th, I believe, that there is a document that has to be signed. We have to set up a school building committee. That date will be coming up shortly. There are dates. You get off to a flying start with a lot of information going into the state, and then it'll tend to drag a bit as we put things together. I still don't have a dollar figure like Dave mentioned again, and the figure that we were given is the feasibility study could cost between $500,000 and $1 million. Well, that's quite a range, and it is a 50% reimbursement, maybe. I actually found out at the phone call that this past phone call gave much more information than the first phone call that we had last fall. This time, we found out that the reimbursement rate ranges from 30 to 80%, depending upon the economic circumstances at that time. Ms. McAdams told me that the grant that was given to Ipswich that they're working under, that they're filling out all of their forms now, was at 45%. So we have to check to make sure that we're getting 50%. Hopefully we're going to get the full whatever percent, hopefully we'll get at least 50% of the funding. But we have to set up a school building committee. We do have to get some paperwork in. Triton will be doing a lot of the paperwork and getting that set up. I will make a call to the Ipswich School Building Committee. I've been given the name of somebody to contact there to get some, and hopefully next Monday night I will be able to give you a clearer idea, if I get a clearer idea, of how to come up with that feasibility study dollar amount so that we can know what we'll have to put down for the override.
That's it?
But I thought the lady truly was wonderful, and I really want her, if she, somehow if she's listening, that I really appreciated the information that she gave today, and she very gracious in spending the time with me, and was very, very helpful.
Good.
Very, very helpful.
Okay.
So
All
there's a
right.
lot of work to be done yet. lot.
Mr. Perry, so we do have some clarification in your package from Attorney Tom Mullen on the various signatories on two forms that will need to be filed, that I was in contact with Assistant Superintendent Brian Forget.
Yes.
Would the board like to discuss that tonight, and also these school building committee makeup? We received clarification that it is the town Board of Selectmen that would be the appointing authority on the school building committee, and the MSBA has a list of members, I believe it's 12. And so if the board would like to establish a timetable on when you want to get that SBC appointed, is that something we want to do tonight, knowing that we're getting tight on time?
This is the first I've seen, this is a 2.5-page legal letter here. I would prefer to, if we have time, to put it off, give us a chance to digest it the next week, and then make those determinations.
Well, you
next
definitely
week.
have to make a determination next week,
Next week,
because I
yeah.
believe it has to be filed by the 11th of March.
Okay, so it's.
But on the school building, just a couple of comments. If you take a look at the sheet Does everybody have the school building?
It's in the packet after the legal opinion.
Right. Yeah, the SBC member, school building committee member who is MCPPO certified, that would be Brian Forger. He is certified to fill that position. And we will have to talk to some individuals. I have some recommendations and would like to speak to them before I make the recommendation to the board as to who the members might be on the
Yeah, I think we
school
definitely
building
need time to
committee.
digest it until next Monday, if that's appropriate.
Yes.
Whatever. I don't think I've got that letter in this packet.
I think,
I mean, the letter is dated today, February 22nd, so I mean, we really haven't had a chance to
Yeah,
look at it.
we definitely need some time.
Okay.
building committee.
And this
And the one right behind it, I think, is what Debbie was talking, no. Do you have a letter attached to that?
So, the legal opinion covers those two forms that are,
This is the whole
And,
package on the
okay.
budget. and that was
the town's attorney works closely with, by coincidence, with the Triton Regional School Committee's attorney.
Okay.
And so they've
There's
both
the-
been in contact over this.
There's a letter.
I don't
Oh, I would think
believe
we'd
this-
come to a quick agreement, but it's just a matter of making sure we
Yeah,
know what
no,
we're doing.
exactly. I
Yeah.
tried to get it
Yeah.
through
No,
today,
that's-
to get it in front of you today, knowing that you wouldn't be able to make any decisions this evening, but if we could look at maybe next week,
Right. No,
I think the
Definitely next
timing
week
is
we should be
concerning.
Hiring a problem, Joe, I think next week would be,
I would think.
you could talk to whoever you need to talk to about
Right.
who you'd like to see on the
From the
committee.
town's appointments, all the school ones will be appointed by the district.
Right.
Okay? You ready to move on?
I think I'm just about completed.
Okay.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Now the good news, new business number one's good news.
Okay, now we get down to new business number one. And he's right, it is good news. Memo from Raleigh Municipal Lighting Plant. Okay,
So, Mr. Chairman, I think we said that Vice Chairman Perry would be reading that.
yes, yeah, I'm going to recuse myself from participating in this particular item under new business, because I am also a member of the Municipal Light Board. So you got your copy there, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, this letter, memo from the Raleigh Municipal Light Plant dated February 10th to 2016. Sorry about that. Commissioners meeting. Wow, 2,106. Okay, 7 p.m. Raleigh Town Hall Selectmen's Meeting Room. 2016 payment in lieu of taxes to the town of Raleigh. Move the manager of the municipal lighting plant under the direction and control of the municipal light board for the expenses of the plant for said fiscal year 16, as defined in section 57 of chapter 164 of the general laws, make a payment in lieu of taxes to the town of Raleigh in the amount of $33,273.76. And it's signed by the Light Board Chairman, G. Robert Murray, the Kenneth Keys, and Robert Snow. We want a motion to accept the payment?
Well, I just have some question. Is this something they do every year, or?
Yes.
And is it always the same amount, or is it a different amount, and
It's
how is that determined?
It's determined by the street lighting bill. Under
They
chapter one.
basically forgive the street lighting every year. We get billed for the street lighting in the community,
Mhm.
and every year the light department basically.
Oh, I see.
Under chapter 164, the light department cannot sell energy, sell electricity, kilowatt hours, for less than cost. so they have to pay for them,
Oh, okay.
one way or another. So to get around that, they'd make a pilot payment, which is a payment in lieu of taxes.
And it's based on the amount of electricity the town has
And
used over
It's
the years?
based on the estimate of the electricity used for street lighting.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it now for probably about 14, 15 years.
Yeah, we appropriate the money every year in the budget, and then during that year, they vote to give it back, basically give it back to us in this form. I'll make a motion to, Joe, you make a motion to accept the payment in lieu of taxes.
Thank you.
$33,273
Thank you.
76 cents.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Recused.
Passed unanimous. Chair is yours, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Item number 2 under new business is letter from Assistant Attorney General Kevin Mangalaro regarding open meeting law complaint filed by Joseph Perry.
My name's coming up tonight. Boy.
Letter from, I already read that part of it. Assistant Attorney General Kevin Mangalaro has responded to a complaint filed by Joseph Perry on November 16, 2015. The chairman will read the response into the record. Okay, this is to the Raleigh Board of Water Commissioners, re-open meeting law complaint. Dear Chairman Manning, this office received a complaint from Joseph Perry dated November 16, 2015, alleging that the Raleigh Board of Water Commissioners, the board, violated the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, subsection 18 through 25. The complaint was originally filed with the board on October 23, 2015, and the board responded on October 30th, 2015. In his complaint, Mr. Perry alleges that the board chairman deliberated by email. Following our review, we find that 2 emails sent by former board chairman Timothy Toomey violated the open meeting law. In researching a determination, we reviewed the complaint, the board's response, and request for further review filed with our office. Facts. We find the facts as follows. The board is a 3-member public body, thus 2 members constitute a quorum. During the time period relevant to this complaint, the board chair was Timothy Toomey. On October 13, 2015, Chairman Toomey sent an email to the town treasurer and the town town administrator. The 2 other board members were copied on this email. The email reads in part as follows. The Selectmen have allegedly authorized comp time for the water department superintendent. They allowed 80 hours of unauthorized time to be transferred over another fiscal year, 2015 to 2016. It's a standard position, and as such, there is no comp time. The Board of Selectmen, not the Water Board, authorized the superintendent to commute and use the water department truck for own personal use. I have discovered over the last month that expense statements on personal use mileage were filled out for tax purposes. Once again, these expenses were not authorized by the Water Commissioners nor approved at any town meeting. The Treasurer's Office continues without proper authorization to pay these benefits out of the Water Department's expense funds. The Water Commissioners have control of all operating expenses paid through the Enterprise Fund. It does not appear that anyone responded to this email. On October 14, 2015, the following day, Chairman Toomey sent a second email to the same recipients as the earlier one, including the 2 other board members. The second email forwarded the text of the first and stated simply, please respond, second request. Now, the important part, the decision.
No discussion.
I'm sorry, discussion. The open meeting law requires a public body to post a notice of any meeting at least 48 hours prior to such meeting. General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20B. A meeting is defined as a deliberation by a public body with respect to any matter within the body's jurisdiction. General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18. Deliberation is defined in relevant part as an oral or written communication through any medium, including electronic mail, between or among a quorum of a public body on any public business within its jurisdiction. For the purpose of the open meeting law, a quorum is generally a simple majority of the members of the public body. Communication on matters within a body's jurisdiction to a quorum of a public body is a deliberation, even if no other public body member responds. See Open Meeting Law 2014-148, Open Meeting Law 2013-29, and Open Meeting Law 2013-27, Open Meeting Law 2012-15. Here we find the chairman to be violated the open meeting law by sending both the October 13th and 14th, 2015 emails. The initial email concerned a matter within the board's jurisdiction, that is, a financial issue within the board's jurisdiction, and a quorum of the board was copied on the email. This constituted deliberation, and therefore the discussion should have taken place during an open meeting. See General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 20A, B 21. By sending the latter email, which included the text of the first email, Chairman Toomey further communicated to a quorum of the board on matters within its jurisdiction. See General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, defining deliberation. This too violated the open meeting law because it does not appear that any board member responded to either email. We find that this was an intentional violation of law rather than a individual violation of the law rather than a violation of the board as a whole. See Open Meeting Law 2015-33, Open Meeting Law 2014-148. Conclusion. For the reasons stated above, we find that former board chairman Timothy Toomey individually violated the open meeting law. We order Mr. Toomey's immediate and future compliance with the open meeting law, and we caution that similar future violations may be considered evidence of intent to violate the law. We also order that the board release to the public within 30 days following receipt of this letter the two emails referenced herein. We now consider the complaint addressed by this determination to be resolved. This determination does not address any other complaints that may be pending with our office or the board. Please feel free to contact the division at 617-963-2540 if you have any questions. Sincerely, Kevin Manganaro, Assistant Attorney General, Division of Open Government. See, the determination was issued pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 23C. A public body or any member of a body aggrieved by a final order of the Attorney General may obtain judicial review through an action filed in Superior Court pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 23D. The complaint must be filed in Superior Court within 21 days of receipt of a final order. Amen. So that takes care of that.
Yep.
Okay, new business number 3. Discuss open meeting law complaint filed by Robert Murray on January 12th, 2016. During the January 11, 2016 meeting, the board discussed and voted to file an open meeting law complaint against former Water Board Commissioner Timothy Toomey, but deliberating outside of a public meeting via email. A copy of the open meeting law complaint is attached. Debbie and Chairman Murray discussed this complaint with Assistant Attorney General Kevin Mangalari. Since Mr. Toomey is no longer on the Water Board, it is not necessary for the Board of Selectmen to pursue this complaint because it will be the responsibility of the current members of the Water Board to respond to it. The Board of Selectmen needs to vote to withdraw the complaint and to authorize Chairman Murray to notify the Water Board and Attorney General's office of the Selectmen's withdrawal.
I give you the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Why we're doing this is because the town has done Mr. Toomey a favor and actually recalled him, so he's no longer a commissioner. The fine for this particular complaint that we made is $1,000. But because Mr. Toomey is no longer a member of the Water Board, the fine will go to the current members of the Water Board, who were in fact not involved at all with the complaint. So rather than create that issue for the rest of the committee or the municipal water board, we can withdraw the complaint and it'll go away. Did I lose sleep? You better believe it. But that's
Well, I
the
think
way-
we've already made our point with the last decision calling that a violation, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question there. But we've got to do what we got to do.
Right.
And
So are those fines, that $1,000, that would be apportioned amongst the individual members of the water board? Is it a personal fine, or is it against the water department, or who pays?
Depends how
It's
the Attorney
discretionary.
General's office responds. Because
Right.
if remember the first complaint, it said that was a personal, not the board. So depending on if this had gone forward, the Attorney General's office would have to make a determination whether it was a personal or a board fine. So we don't know how they would have done that.
But all this is now moot.
Well, this particular complaint, there's other complaints out there still. We're dealing with them one
Thought
at a
I'd
time.
lost track.
okay, new business item number 4. Letter from William Herrick and Cynthia Lucia regarding Chapter 61 forest land. Okay. The board discussed a letter it received from William Herrick and Cynthia Lucia regarding Chapter 61 forestry land. The board requested that Debbie contact Town Council Judith Pickett for guidance because back on July 1, 2014, the Board of Selectmen notified Ms. Lucia that a request to release 2 acres of land at 40 Dodge Road and 2 Mill Road were insufficient. The notice listed the terms that were missing in her request. No response was submitted until the board received the January 27th, 2016 letter. The board needs to review Judy Pickett's memo. Okay. Raleigh Board of Selectmen have been requested to release the 2 parcels listed above, and that's the 2 parcels that I read, consisting of approximately 25 acres from the Massachusetts Tax Classification Scheme set out in Mass General Laws, Chapter 61. A letter written by Cynthia Lucia on July 2014 did not meet the specifications set out in General Laws, Chapter 61, Section 8, that would allow the selectmen to act upon the request. That same year, Attorney Frank DiLunia, who represented a presumed trustee, filed a notice with the town that there were deficiencies in the notice filed by Cynthia Lucia, including the fact that she had no authority to request that the land be removed from the provision of Mass General Laws, Chapter 61. On January 27, 2016, Cynthia and William Herrick filed a joint request to have the land removed from the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 61. However, they have not, in my knowledge, filed information pursuant to the provisions of Section 8, including information as to who or what entity owns the property. The selectmen must respond within 30 days of receipt of the notice, notifying the landowner in writing that the notice is insufficient and does not comply. You will need to verify with the assessor's office who is listed as the property owner and notify that, who is the property owner, and notify that person or entity, along with Cynthia and William Herrick, for the reasons why the notice is insufficient and does not comply with the statutory requirements. So, I suppose at this point we need to,
So we did receive a letter, we did respond to the letter saying that it was
Originally.
Right,
and we actually notified them back. We have that information here, that we have
Right.
the documents here.
right.
And notified them that there was insufficient information and to bring it up to date, which they never did.
Correct.
That was in 2014 you're talking?
Yes.
So we haven't responded to their latest letter.
So this one just came in.
Right.
So what they have is a year, and then they can say, because we didn't respond, they can withdraw it. But we didn't respond because we didn't want it. We didn't respond because we didn't have enough information to respond. So what they're looking for is to get it released, and if we can't release it yet because they haven't given us the information.
Right, but doesn't it require the town send another similar letter saying what?
Yes.
Unless very soon, because
Yeah.
it's 30 days.
Yeah, we got the 30 days, so
Right.
we need to take a
And,
vote tonight to send another letter off.
Just indicating what's missing from their letter.
Right. Which we've already done once, but we can do it again.
Right. Seems like their second letter is more detailed than
There's
the
a little bit more,
2014 letter.
Yeah, probably is.
that we don't have the certified copy of the executed purchase and
Right,
sale
yeah.
agreement. Usually when we get these in, they're in a package. I mean, it happens from time to time in the town of Raleigh. So I've never seen anything like this without any information. Really, we usually have a package of things and it's pretty routine, so.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we send Ms. Lucia, and Mr. Herrick a letter along with attorney recommends that the record owner seems to be trustees Lucia Herrick Realty Trust,
Right.
Lucia Cynthia H., and all trustees 141 Dodge Road, Raleigh, Mass. 01969. Include them in the correspondence that the letter does not meet the requirements of the law.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
I
Unanimous.
apologize. It's my grandson calling from.
You're actually gonna get fined, you know. No more candy out of the candy jar.
We never hit, we emailed my grandson who's he's a freshman at Brigham Young University in Utah, and we haven't heard from him.
While you were gone, Joe, we voted you to put all the chairs away at the end of the meeting.
It was unanimous.
Unanimous.
Next week as well.
Even the audience voted in favor of that.
Everybody was in favor. All my friends.
All right, the next agenda item is announcements. Okay, presidential primary election, March 1st, 2016, at the St. Mary's Catholic Church on Main Street, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. will be the voting hours. And the town has the following vacancies: Shellfish Commissioners, 2 seats; Fence Viewer, 3 positions; Wood Lumber and Bark Inspector; Zoning Board of Appeals Associate, 3 seats; Historic Commission, Historic District Commission, 2 seats; Parks and Recreation Committee, 2 seats. And for more information on these positions, please contact the Selectmen's office at 948-2372. Raleigh Food Pantry is in need of donations. The food pantry is open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Okay.
I made my favorite motion.
You can make your favorite motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.